Oh yeah, so we've been trying to work on my excavator for a while. Ended up getting sick from the cold, windy weather that we had. Got super sick. Just now recovering just a little bit from it. So start my mechanic job tomorrow. So we're fixing to go and look at a big job. We were supposed to start with our excavator, but we weren't able to. I got a buddy that's supposed to, or got his down there, so we're fixing to go check his out. I'm gonna go grab a chainsaw, a part like that, to get in there to throw it in the back of the truck. So makes it a little easier. We'll have to get their stuff, our fuel, get our fuel and stuff like that, and then we're gonna start heading that way to check him out, because he's using his 46,000 pound, which we'll go more depth when we get there. So just hang around, see what we got. All right, we're here. He's got that big old Hitachi 46,000 pound excavator. So he's getting it piled up. We're cleaning up all this. I'll show you shortly, but we'll get closer up there next to him and see what we can't get done over here today. But the customer cleaned out this corner right here with his little backhoe, and it's taking him forever. So we're piling up and kind of wind rolls. That way he can burn it, and he's going to start building houses on this other side over here. So we should be knocking it out. I was hoping to use my excavator on this one, but it's got a lot of problems still. After I fixed a bunch of stuff, which I never recorded, the oil cooler started leaking on the side of the block. The engine block to the lower radiator hose that comes out of the block goes in the lower side. It was like a 45 degree where they slapped it on there thinking it'd work, but it don't. It was busted in 2 spots, and I was surprised it didn't catch on fire, and it didn't mess the block up too. So I mean, it gets it hot pretty quickly, so I didn't realize it. But we're gonna go ahead and get closer to him and talk to him for a minute. See, like I just touched. All right, so that's a Hitachi 200 LX, and it's a pretty nice one. Don't leak like his other one did, but that's a second big excavator, so it's pretty nice. It just tracks really slow. So he said it's got some wiring issues, like 95% of these suckers have that, and between hydraulic issues and electrical problems. So it just takes him a few minutes. What I'm gonna do is let him do a bunch of this, and I'm gonna probably spend a day or two with my skid steer up here blading and cleaning, kind of like all this other stuff. So but he's gonna take a few more trees out, and then he's gonna start this end over here. So but that's a nice one. I just can't wait to get mine going. That's 46,000 pounds. That's a super wide track too, I think. But this is where he burned a bunch of stuff and pushed it up. So we're gonna try to blade some of this. But yeah, at that 46,000 pounds, she makes some trees light work. So I brought my chainsaw, but he snaps them in half like it's nothing. So that's probably the next thing I'm gonna get. It's a manual thumb and do a little bit of line boring, some of the main pins, but just enough to get by. Probably bring the little Ranger over here and prop it up once he starts on this lower side. Let's walk over here and I'll show you what we got. Snapped it in two. All right, so what we got is the customer came in about right in here and kind of cleaned up some with a little backhoe and pushed it up in a pile, and that was several months of doing that. These are a bunch of locusts. It's got the big old thorny majigs on it. I had one of my buddies come in and mulch this probably 2 years ago, but this is probably 3.5 acres, and there's a house over here that's probably ½ acre. But we got some big old trees, but that should take a little bit of ripping and should be good to go. But we're gonna come in, rip all this up into a windroll, and then, which we got the fire department here and on the other side, and he's also a fire, I don't know if he's fire chief or what he is, fire instructor. But currently we're in a no burn, so we got some rocks, got some dirt mounds pushed up. Which, ow, you can see what we got here. Some thick stuff. See, these are the locusts, little pointy majigs. And they're hard as rock too. But this is what we got. We're gonna spend probably about a week. He's gonna come up, he's gonna record with my GoPro, so I'll be working full time this week, but I'll probably bring my skid steer on the weekend. But this coming weekend we're going to start a job, so it'll be a good job. I got to rent a Mini X, and my skid steer will be on the job. But we're gonna get our big excavator fixed just a little at a time, so we'll just do what we got to do. So I guess just hang in there. We're just trying to make it, so everybody's starving to death right now, so we'll just have to hang in there like the rest of them. Everybody's starving for work. All right, so he was able to rip up like 13 or 14 more trees, ripped out this whole corner over here. So I'm gonna bring my skid steer and rake this up. So now he's fixing to rake up that. He's gonna start in that center. So I was gonna record a little bit more and then head out. He's gonna record the rest because I'm still sick as a dog, so my throat's killing me. So got some shots and stuff like that Friday, so or yesterday. So just recovering. So it's pretty good for what we're doing. So I was going to go ahead and start pushing that center, and I'll bring my skid steer up here and get all this other smaller stuff.
guys, let's do a little more today. We left the second, we got the second pile done. That was the first one. Second one got it a little smaller, maybe can handle it a little better. Started on the third pile yesterday. Got it looking pretty good. We're eased up in there pretty far. Let's see what kind of dent we can't knock in it today. Get y'all a couple time-lapse videos of this machine here.